National Labour Organization and Swiss Development Agency. He has been associated with the FBN International and has also served as a member of many prestigious committees such as the National Advisory Committee on Science and Technology e-Parks in India and UK. His current research includes industrial development policies, venture capital, and resource building of firms. Professor Ramchandran's latest book, The 10 Commandments of Family Business, has been published by The Sage in January 2015 and is a must-read for all. He is deeply committed to creating a vibrant platform for research, knowledge creation, and innovation in the rapidly growing field of family business. And here's hoping we can take away a lot today from his vast experience. Sir, the floor is open to you.
A very good evening to you. It's really great for me to be here with you for two reasons. One is for the special initiative on the education front. And I say education is, gives me great satisfaction to witness, to be present here at the launch of such a great initiative. And to be with all of you, sharing some of my experiences, listening to you, learning from the eminent experts on the panel, and meeting some of my old friends, interacted in different contexts. So it's a really pleasure for me to be with you. This is the topic is discovering my identity and role in the family business and profession in the context of the family business. As different people have said already, the contribution of family business is phenomenal. Most of the businesses in the country or across the world are family controlled. It's not only in India, Asia particularly it is very high. Family members are actively involved in the operations, not only ownership but also day-to-day operations. In the Western context it is very high, particularly in Germany, Italy, Norway, Sweden. So you can take most of the European countries. North America, US also it is very high, about 50% of the GDP is coming from family-controlled businesses. And some of the largest businesses such as the Walmart are family-controlled anyway. So the role of family businesses in the building of the nation or building the society has always been very high. And we always say that the role of women in family business is always very high. Very significant. And we call the women in family business as the CEOs of the family. CEOs actually means the chief emotional officer, besides being maybe the chief economic officer. And which means that the women in the family businesses have always played a very active role in terms of building, sustaining, and passing it over to the subsequent generations. So it's very important to understand how the women power or women can contribute to the sustenance of family businesses. Rekha already said that large number of the family businesses do not go beyond the second or the third generation. About 70% of them disappear in the end of first generation, first to second. Succession is a big challenge there. By the time it comes to the third, fourth generation, it's about 5% or less than 7% across the world survive. So therefore, if you look at the role of women as the chief emotional officers as well as the pillars of the family, and if we realize that there are fundamental challenges and uniqueness faced by family businesses, then it's very important to understand how we can contribute to the building of the family businesses and build it across generations, because nobody wants to see the business or the wealth destroyed after one's time. Everybody who is building would like to see it there for the next 100 years, 200 years, children, grandchildren and all. Okay, so it's in this context that we have to have this discussion. And one important thing I have noticed is that it's becoming more and more complex, more and more challenging for family businesses to sustain. One important reason is that the society is changing. Especially the Indian society is changing very rapidly. Whereas the Western society took 100 years or 200 years for moving from an agrarian society to an industrialized society, from an agrarian sort of living conditions to much more mobile conditions. We are witnessing the same thing in 10 years, 20 years here. In the Indian context, the society is from a joint family to nuclear family to single women living. These kinds of changes are happening so rapidly. Before you realize that joint family system has almost gone. And we are all witnessing that. There's a lot of challenge there. Which part do we belong to? And then the other thing is that collectivism is coming down. Individualism is growing. Everybody wants to have their own empires, identity. At the same time, positive thing is that, especially in the context of women, mobility is much higher. You can travel anywhere in the country or outside. And there are travel facilities are there. Women's role is respected, much more educated, contribution is much more respected. Ladies are very actively involved in all industrial or economic activities. So the society is changing, and I find that the role of women is redefined in a very, very dynamic way. Okay, so that is one part of it. At the same time, if you look at it, can we move to the next slide, please? Can you put it on the slide presentation mode, slideshow? Yeah. Okay. I think that's the age of a firm, and on the vertical axis, the size of a firm, which means that what you see is the firm life cycle. And if you notice it, the firm life cycle, as we all understand, goes through a lot of crises. It's not smooth. A lot of changes are there. We often come across a lot of challenges, and then we have to keep overcoming that. So as the family business or the business changes in terms of size, activity, mix, initially the business is an extension of the family. It's a subset of the family. All the money for the business comes from the family. All the manpower or resources for the business comes from the family. There is no difference between family income and business income. Whenever the business wants money, money is brought from the family. Whenever the family wants money, you withdraw from the business. And when you want somebody to work in the business, family members are automatically, naturally recruited into that. But this becomes sort of a liability at some point in time, because as the business is changing, as if you go to the, can you click please? Thank you. As the business is expanding, there are new stakeholders in the business. It's not only the family, you have non-family members involved in the business, who sometimes may have a greater stake in the business. Very often their life is dependent on that. There are other people who are equally interested, who are equally committed to the business. It is wrong to assume that non-family members do not have a stake and they are not passionate. In good businesses, very often you find non-family members also passionately involved. So the business is no longer ownership-wise, economic ownership-wise, it may be with the family, but emotional ownership-wise, involvement-wise, there are non-family members. We often do not accept that. We don't understand that. Okay, so if you go to the next stage, we have other non-family members also owners. So initially it is the family and members who are the owners. Then you may have non-family members, especially if you go for outside ownership, outside investment, private equity, venture capital, or even partnership. You have other people coming into the business. So just as the business is expanding, as the business is becoming more and more complex, you have non-family stakeholders involved in the business. This is a big learning family businesses have to have. Very often, not only small, but very large family businesses refuse to admit that, refuse to accept that. I've seen multi-thousand crore family business, the chairman or the family members saying that this is your business, ye apna business hai. This is not apna. There are many people involved. And very often the problem is that small children are brought up telling them that this empire is yours. When you grow up, you go and sit in this chair. The boy or the girl may not be sufficiently educated, may not be sufficiently oriented, may not be the right person with the right attitude, may not be the right caliber. Then how can you assume that this person will be the right person to lead the business? Okay. So we bring up this kind of attitudinal issues within the family. And very often large family businesses inclusive, assume that all the resources in the business belong to the family. You remember the great Satyam story. When Ramalingaraju stepped down, his holding was less than 10%. 7% or somewhere there. And then, assuming that the whole company belongs to me is exaggeration. Okay, so this is a big challenge. We have to get over with this kind of a problem. There's also another thing. In this case, can you go to the next slide, please? See, family and business, we often think that they are the same. I said the family, business is an extension of the family, but family and business are two different systems, entirely different systems. If you look at the family side, you look at the dimensions, the relationship is natural, you cannot fire family members, emotional attachment is what keeps them together, the values are driving them, the traditions are there, it's more like a socialistic system. Everybody is equal, everybody has the same right. Whereas if you look at the other side, the business side, business depends on competitiveness. If you want to be competitive, you have to have the right product in the right market. You should be aggressive. You should be competitive in terms of your competition. You have to build your strategy. You have to have the right people in the organization. Family membership does not mean that you have the right people in the business. You have to reward the right people. If somebody is not performing, you should have the freedom to fire, remove that person. Then only the business will survive. If Rekha said that large number of the family businesses do not survive across generations, one big problem is that the third generation, which assumes that the business is mine and then goes and sits there as the chairman, managing director, whatever it is, they may not have the right capabilities. And they will not be able to attract the right talent into the business. So that is a big challenge. So it is important for us to understand the family and business are entirely different systems, and you cannot blend the two. When you are working in the business, you are wearing a business hat. When you are working at home, sitting at home, you are wearing the family hat. And on top of it, to increase the complexity, we all wear multiple hats. For instance, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a friend, I'm a sibling. So which role am I playing? If I take your context, you may be the mothers, you may be the wives, you may be the sisters-in-law, and multiple roles. This is on the one side. On the other side, if you are working in the business, you may be a colleague, you may be a boss, you may be a subordinate. If you put these two together, imagine a situation. You have your spouse working with you in the family business context. Or if you have a senior member of the family member you are working with you, which hat will you wear? At home it is equality or different levels are there. When you work at the workplace, it may be equality. You may be the director, equal director. Can you dictate terms? Will the seniors in the family, if they are sitting in the business, will they tolerate you as an equal member? Very often family members refuse to believe that, or they do not accept, or they do not remember. I think remember is the right word. Remember which hat they wear. And you will remember this. Sometimes when you are getting into a discussion, in the business discussion, the dad may say, or the husband may say, or the brother may say that, what do you think about this? And you say that, I don't think it's a great, it's a stupid idea. I don't think that we should do it. Okay. The other person will say that, why do you think so? You say this. And then slowly, the temperature will rise, and then the other person will say, that's stupid. You don't know? I have been running this business for the past 30 years. You have just joined 2 years back. What do you think of you? Okay, I'm the father hat wearing, or the husband hat wearing. Okay. And then I admonish you. What is required is the training to wear the right hat at the right place. One of the best known companies in the country has a policy. They say that all the business discussions they finish at the workplace. It's a joint family of Marwadis in the north, but when they finish the discussion, then only they go home. Otherwise, they park the things, They cool down and then they drive home together. At home, no business discussion. But there is also a process of educating the family members about what's happening. It's more like shareholders. You feed them with the briefings once in a month or once a quarter as to what's happening. Okay. So the family members may be involved as decision makers, maybe as facilitators, maybe as people who receive information. But unfortunately, there is no balance. Sometimes you hear something, sometimes you don't hear something. Sometimes you are consulted, sometimes you are not consulted. Sometimes the decision is taken by somebody, somebody knows about it, somebody doesn't know about it. Okay. The net result is confusion. And if you can go to the next slide, please. I have noticed that this is the fate of most family businesses. Okay. When I have run workshops for business families, I asked to discuss why, as you said, the third generation shirt sleeve to shirt sleeve in 3 generations, and why family businesses fail. I write down all the points on the whiteboard. At the end of the session, when you look at it, you find that 10% of the space is occupied by reasons really related to the business. 90% of the reasons are related to the family. It may be about entrance of somebody, it may be about investment, it may be about salary, it may be about decision making, it may be about something or something. And there is a cumulative effect. And so most family businesses are created, preserved, and destroyed by families themselves. It's in this context that I believe that ladies have a major role to play. If they are the chief emotional officers, you have the responsibility, you are the stewards of the family. You can preserve it. The basic thing is understanding. Understanding the dimensions involved. As I mentioned, these are all very complex situations. But it is very easy to understand because we live as part of it. We can understand it. So the first thing is to understand what's happening in family business. Why family businesses do not survive? Why is it that some family businesses across the world survive? There are family businesses which are 15 generations, 20 generations across the world. In India, because of our short history of industrialization, we don't have many. We have only few family businesses which have survived beyond 4 or 5 generations, large family businesses. So it is very important to understand it. And I have been looking at the challenges faced by family businesses, and I've come across, in some sense, I've said that there may be 10 dimensions you can see in a family business which are affecting the performance, survival, and growth of family businesses. So one important area is communication. Building high quality communication is very important. We are very poor. We assume relationship. I often think that I have an elder brother, and I often think that I have known my brother for the past so many years, so he will understand me. No, I have changed, he has changed. So unless there is a positive, assertive communication, initiative, it doesn't work. And especially in the family business context, when everybody is busy, and as I said, the world has become so complex, people are so busy, you need to have specific occasions created to discuss and understand what are the things affecting the family, what are the things affecting the business, and then take it forward. So, and that alone will create trust. Next, please. Yet another area is professionalization, which is not an easy thing. It is not recruiting high quality people. It is not recruiting qualified people, whether from family or not. It is much beyond that. It is not about using systems and processes. It's a question of attitude of the leader, attitude of the people. So it is very important. Next, please. Then you have to have values, preserve and practice values. I often ask the families when I do work with the families, what are your values? And they come around with the communication, openness, what is that, the caring kind of things. So there are several interesting words they say. And I often pick out one of them and say that, tell me instances when you have practiced this. Okay, tell me instances when you haven't practiced this. Openness, collaboration, and all these things are nice words, but sometimes you people don't practice it. Okay, so it is very important to preserve and practice the values. Then you have to be clear about the ownership. Money always is a source of dispute, frustration. So it is very important to see who owns how much, what is the ownership pattern, who can inherit, what is the basis on which it can be transferred, and all those things are there. Next. Then retirement. Retirement is a bad word. I don't believe in retirement. I don't think that people should retire. But I do believe that your portfolio of activities need to be redefined. When one is a child, the portfolio consists of maybe most of the time you spend on playing or sleeping or eating or something like that, a little bit of study also. But as you grow up, the mix changes, but as you become 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, the portfolio has to change. And so therefore it is a redefinition of your role, responsibilities. It is never retirement. So it is very important to understand it and manage that. Next, please. Similarly, succession is a big challenge. Most people do not want to retire. Most people do not want to succeed. When you ask, I mean, I have some 8